Could the Sixers, with the upcoming draft, start to really consider, let's just continue to add to the flamethrowing on our roster. Do they even have flamethrowers on the roster? And that's why it makes a little more sense, potentially, for the Philadelphia 76ers. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers podcast here on a Thursday. As we discuss, we've talked about him quite a bit. We've gone over his name a ton, but never really a central focus to the show. And as we've talked about, from about 3 to 8 or 3 to 10, everybody has a wart that you can worry about a bit. And with this one, he has one glaring thing.
Look who it is. Decided to join the show today.
Kon Knueppel joins the show today as we talk about Kon Knueppel as the central focus to the show here on this Thursday. Derek Bodner, Kyle Neubeck, I'm Devon Givens, President of Basketball Operations. Bree is with us. All of you in the chat, we appreciate it. And before we get started, we'll get to our news and notes a little bit later, catch up on the Western Conference Finals last night that came to an end. OKC advancing to the NBA Finals like we predicted in the beginning of the season. Again,
Brick City, they call it, right? OKC? Beat down in Brick City.
And we'll check in on the Eastern Conference Game 5 tonight as the Knicks try to stay alive in their series. And we will talk about all that a little bit later. But we got to tell you right away from the start, we have to tell you about our summer sale going on right now for $36. Sign up to become a Diehard member at our new intro offer for the summer. And you got to get in now because if I'm not mistaken, it might be coming to an end a little bit later on tonight. I'm just saying. But if you want to get in, join the Discord, be a part of the community, $36 summer intro offer right out of the gate, everybody. So go ahead and sign up if you haven't. You've been a little reluctant. Well, right now you got a lot of great Flyers coverage because of the draft upcoming and the offseason being so big. The Sixers with Derek and Kyle writing a ton of pieces and profiles on these prospects like Kon Knueppel. The Eagles, OTAs underway. You know all the guys are handling their business there. And the Phillies still playing some really good baseball. So you want to sign up right now. allphly.com. Become a Diehard member. $36 intro offer. And you get a free t-shirt while you're at it. Go do it. Jump on in there. Become a part of our community. And let's have at it right here at PHLY.
Also, just one other selling point. You get to come in our exclusive Discord.
Yes.
Where you get to see Vince and his trade machine crazy brain. And that is something to behold.
And you also
I don't think that's a sales point, but opinions may vary.
You do get to see it, though.
You also get to see the All-City Draft Guide for the NBA put together by Will Gottlieb of CSGO and our very own Derek Bodner. So make sure you go sign up. $36. You get to see all the prospects in there at the Draft Guide as well as we talk about a number of players, not only at 3, but also at number 35, which Kyle and Derek have dropped some articles there on allphly.com about those players as well. All right, but Kon Knueppel, right away, I see Gracie saying, I like Trey Johnson better. Well, I think we all have him rated a little bit higher than Kon Knueppel, Kyle, but it's also a name that we have to. I saw it.
I saw name I'm seeing.
I saw it. That we had to talk about him because as we put all these names in the hat, and
the star of the show has entered the chat.
Exactly, we put them all in the mix. It's just one that is it at the size that he measured at in Chicago at the Combine, knowing that he could shoot the basketball. He has pretty good secondary ball handling skills for where he would be in this particular offense, which is down like most of them would be. But could it just all be very simple of a guy who can shoot the basketball? As you mentioned, both of you mentioned yesterday, a really good team defender, gives effort for what he does, and can do a lot on the offensive end, especially with the players that we know he would be surrounding in this offense here in Philadelphia. Is it just sitting there right in your face as a, hey, don't overlook this guy?
Yeah. Well, that's what we were talking about before the show, right, Devon? That as we get into these arguments about all these prospects, you go down the list, and even not to say that Dylan Harper is a perfect prospect, right? But at least he has a pretty well-realized game, and it's like, all right, I see the vision with him pretty much immediately. 3 through 8, 3 through 10, just after 2 is when you start saying, yeah, I like this about this guy, but I don't like this. Yeah, I like this about that guy, but I don't like his passing, his dribbling, his defense, whatever it is. And Kon is in that group. But if you look at all the things that you would use as measuring tools for a prospect, right? So just the basic production stuff, right? Highly productive, highly efficient on one of the best teams in the country. Frankly, a team that I think as we got deep in the tournament, all of us are like, that's the best team and they're probably going to win the title. Yeah. They run into a really tough Houston team and their season ends there. But like, it was not really a mark against Duke as a team. So productive, efficient, on a very good team. You look at some of if you dig deeper into the stats and the numbers, right? I've been saying this throughout the draft process. I really get a kick out of it. Every time someone does like here's how all this year's prospects fare in like passing under pressure or shot value, or just like make up a thing that people would be like, all right, you have to spend some time on this and spit out some numbers. It's always like Flagg, Harper, and then Knueppel is right there, right? He's somebody that in so many different ways on offense is making your team better and is making high value plays. And I think while he's not someone that any of us have talked about as he's a primary option at the next level, someone you're going to give the ball to constantly, to run pick and rolls, to come out of dribble handoffs, and just like you're the lead decision maker on the floor. I just think he's so good in so many different ways. He's one of those classic, at least on offense, takes nothing off the table guys. Good relocator who will create good spacing, great spot up shooter, good passer, good ball handler. The separation is where we have to get into some conversations. Great off of 2 feet inside the arc, which offsets the athletic concerns. Like, there are just so many things that you look at him, and I've said it many times, Kon Knueppel on a broader scale, like players like him, I'm usually out on, especially this high in a draft. I want tools. I want athleticism. I want, some form of high ceiling upside. And I don't know that he has that. But if we're talking about a group of players that we all think, a lot of these guys have real warts and real concerns at the next level. It's not to say that Kon is perfect, but it just feels like there is such an easy path to him walking in day one, being a productive player early, and having a long career where he helps basically any team that he's on. And that is the Kon Knueppel sales pitch in a nutshell.
I do think it's really interesting when you look at, the conference tournaments where Cooper Flagg went out in like 10 minutes in, something like that. I think he only played 10 minutes the first game. And Knueppel averaged, 21 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, got the free throw line 8 times per night, which is maybe the most stark thing, but really looked comfortable being the focal point of that offense and running that offense. Now, I am hedging that by saying that offense and that environment, against Georgia Tech and Louisville, obviously that is drastically different than an NBA offense. I don't project him. I don't think any of us here project him as a focal point of an NBA offense. If we did, considering his overall game and the way he approaches it and his decision-making, we would probably be pushing for him as a third pick. But when you're able to do that, even against lesser competition, it shows just how adaptable you are. And he does so much offensively at a really good level, whether that is, one of the things that Kyle brought up early and has been on ever since is his passing, especially his chemistry with Maluach. He's a better passer than you expect just looking at the numbers. The off-ball shooting, the off-screen shootings, the way he can get to the middle of the floor, the way he's able to use his shoulder to create space down low. He's a really effective at-rim finisher, which you wouldn't expect when you watch him, quite frankly, jump. He is just...
or not jump.
Yes. He is really, really good at a lot of
Shade
things.
at the white guy, man. Shade at the... Look at you.
I mean, it has nothing to do with the complexion of his skin.
I just watched
him
the white guy
jump.
a little bit, but I also have a lot of respect for his game. So take it for what it's worth.
But you threw me off a little bit.
All right,
That's
my
okay.
bad.
I'll get back on track.
All right.
There is some obvious concern over his projection. There is obvious, I think, limitations on how far you can, cap his upside. The off-dribble shooting, if you're going to become a real, I don't even want to say focal point, but even just a third-tier guy, you've got to be able to have a little bit of off-dribble shooting, especially because without any kind of burst, like people are going to overplay that a little bit. And he's just slow. Like, there's only so much he can get to his spots when he becomes a focal point of an opposing defense. So it is something where it's like, and defensively, like, I worry a lot. And we talked about this a lot. Like, he is such a fun college defender to watch because he was in the right spot all the time. He was engaged almost all the time. He was never beaten by backdoor cuts. He was positionally sound, and you'd communicate and do everything you want. But he's 6'5" with like a 6'5" wingspan.
6'7" in shoes.
Sure. Give or take, who people can just shoot over, and he's limited laterally. And there's like, you can make up for a lot of that, but I worry a lot about, all right, you have McCain, Maxey, and Kon. I don't think that's going to work defensively at all.
Right. Because, so look, I think if we're getting into the athleticism and the defensive stuff, I do feel okay about Kon against wings, right? Like, I think,
like,
while he
straight up one-on-one type stuff?
Yeah, like just being able to body guys up. And
the screens are where
when he has to chase and pursue and
Jalen Brunson is looking for him.
Switch situations, right? Like, I think where you would run into the fit concerns with the backcourt guys is that it's one thing to have a single guy. You don't want to have anybody who's someone you hunt, right? It's one thing to have a single guy on the floor, though, who a teams can hunt, right? Because you can try to scram, switch, and play your way out of that and sit in some zone looks and do some different things. Once you have multiple guys on the floor at once who the team can bring a ball screen over, force an easy switch, and then say, hey, if it's Brunson, if it's Halliburton, SGA, Anthony Edwards, like anybody who's in these like deep playoff rounds as a lead type guy. Once you have two of those guys, it's just so much easier that you can send ball screens from multiple parts of the floor. It's a lot harder to just bury this guy in the corner. And so then you do end up stuck in, all right, we want to keep somebody on the floor. We're probably going to have to play zone, right? We're going to have to say, whether it's Jared McCain, Kon, like, we need you on the floor. We want your shooting, but we don't trust that you can hold up in a man and or switching scheme. And so then that, what we know about zone, number one, you're susceptible to getting hit with threes. Number two, you're susceptible to being killed on the offensive glass. And that's already a baseline concern for this team before we get into, you know, what they do this offseason. It's been a long-term concern for the roster. So it's not hand waving away Kon's defensive problems. What Derek wrote about when he did his in-depth Kon scouting report at allphly.com was the thing, at least for now, is that Kon was a good college defender, right? Mm-hmm. It does not mean there are plenty of guys who were good at a certain part of basketball at lower levels who, as they ramp up, then suddenly it's like, oh, that guy's just so much faster. Oh, that guy's so much stronger. This guy's so much taller, whatever it is. So it's not to say that Kon is guaranteed to be even like a average defender in the league because he was good in college. But it's at least saying this guy cares, right? You see the clear level of effort from him on that end of the floor. He has very good instincts, right? He puts himself in good positioning often. So if you are playing zone, if you are doing some things where it's the requirement is more the mental strain on how you're setting up, I think Kon checks those boxes. But it is like, at the end of the day, we've seen playoff series for this team end because the other team just played Hunt the Bozo for 30 of the 48 minutes. And guys like JJ Redick, guys like Marco Bellinelli, go on down the list. Robert Covington even, who was a really good team defender, but not as much a on-ball man defender. They just got played off the floor where you had to make changes to lineups, and then all of a sudden you're going deep into the bench to play guys. So it is absolutely fair to say, if you're a person who's like, I just don't believe Kon will defend at the next level, and then on the other side, I think those explosiveness concerns catch up to him. They make the inside the arc shots tougher. They make the shooting tougher, like getting separation, doing all that. I'll hear you. That's a completely coherent argument. I just think if you're thinking about it from a scouting perspective, an evaluator perspective, a lot of times they just say, didn't matter. The guy was really good, right? And he has had athleticism concerns, presumably for his entire basketball career up to this point. And while the ACC was pretty weak this year, certainly not comparable to like the SEC conference that we talked about a lot, still was really damn good at a high level of basketball, and then played in the tournament and arguably played his best basketball of the year against as high a level of competition as you're going to face in the NCAA.
And it did start in that conference tournament when Cooper Flagg went down that Derek mentioned, where he had the 28 in the first game against Georgia Tech. It's Georgia Tech, okay, but it's still, a game where you lose your best player and somebody has to step up and elevate their play. And he did that, and to the tune of 28, got to the free throw line 13 times, which is, we talk about just putting the ball on the floor, getting to the basket. So I'm sure some of that action that's called for Cooper Flagg, they gave it to him and trusted him to do it. And he did it. He executed it, and he got those and followed up with the 17 and 18 in the next 3 games. And this is in 3 days. And we know how the conference tournaments go, where it's just bang, 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 one after another. Then he gets into the tournament, and he does what he does as they go to the Final Four. But it was really about, everybody knew that he was a prospect. It then turned into, he's a real prospect because of, now we're seeing these other, while you may have peeked in from time to time and watched Duke because they're on the national television because they're Duke. But when you really focus in the tournament like many people do, you see that, wow, I didn't know he could put the ball on the floor this way. I didn't know he can carry an offense this way. Wow. Who's the other guard that was knocking down the shots with him that we were talking about? I forgot his name already. He went back. No, he's still in the draft. Proctor. Was Tyrese Proctor was knocking down those shots. It was those two. And those two were the focal points of doing what they were doing, and they were still winning the basketball games. And that's where it just opened up of he can put the basketball on the floor. He can drive to the basket and finish. We know about the lobs that he throws because Maluach is challenged offensively for his own shot, but big target at the rim. He throws a nice lob right at the rim, just catch and finish immediately. And the other things that he's doing as well, and the team defense. So as Brian Pumper said in the very beginning of the show in the chat, you're not losing 58 games to draft Kon Knueppel.
Well, I'll bet you. So one team lost 50-plus games and
somebody will draft Kon Knueppel.
I don't think it'll be a Sixers.
It just so happens that you're at number 3 while we're talking about him. We can get to the trade back and all that of who he is. But the player it's one that, again, like I responded to, our job is to talk about everybody, because if they sneak up and decide, you know what, he is our guy at number 3, and we didn't talk about him, we didn't do our job of not talking about the player that they could potentially take at number 3 because they felt like he was the right one for them.
We've also had shows where we've talked about trade down. Well, if you're going to talk about trade down scenarios, you have to talk about the prospects who you might consider taking if they trade down. There's still a month, well, not quite a month. There's still 4 weeks to go before the draft, man. We got a lot of basketball to talk about.
A lot of basketball to talk about, and a guy that's going to be in the conversation in general, as you pointed out, for some of these teams that may have lost 58 or more games, and he's going to land on that particular
And there
team.
has been some pushback in the chat of like, he's not a lottery pick. He's not a top 10.
Well,
top
that's
10
ridiculous.
He will be a top 10 pick. He'll probably be in the 5 through 10 range. But when you start looking at the teams that are in that 5 through 10 range, 65 losses, 64 losses, 61, 56, 52. Some team is going to have lost 50-plus games and will draft Kon Knueppel. I don't
because
think
he's good.
He's a good prospect. And there's probably few players who over the course of this college basketball season raise their stock more. I remember listening to Sam Vecini early in the preseason. And he's like, I think Kon could be a top 20 prospect. And he was like out on a limb. Like there were not many people who had him rated.
Well, he was viewed as
near.
like, he's probably coming back at least another year if I had to guess.
His offense, Flagg leaves, it's his.
I do think there's a little bit of, he was in a really good spot to hide his limitations defensively. Offensively, we talked about when Cooper went out and he picked up his play. Defensively, I think he was maybe in the exact right spot. And that's one of the things I struggle with when looking at him. And I'm like, all right, he was in the right spot a lot. He played good college defense. He was also in quite possibly the exact perfect spot for him to hide his defensive limitations. Trying to project that to the NBA, I have pretty serious concerns. It is, it's the kind of kid who I think you'd be really happy to have on your team. But I agree, I'm not ready to make him a number 3 pick.
Well, let's hold off on the. Let's get a little more into the Flagg and Maluach and how they insulated him or didn't insulate him. In a moment.
We'll do that when we get back right here and talk about also how that fit would be on the Philadelphia 76ers if they somehow, some way decided to take Kon Knueppel at some point in this draft. We'll do that when we get back on this Thursday. It's the PHLY Sixers podcast right here, hanging out with the guys.
Oh, look, Kon may have excelled in that neutral floor, but you need a home court advantage, and your home needs a home floor advantage. And Empire Today can help you get it. Empire Today has flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. We've all been to some of those big box stores, and while they might have a flooring department, the person actually helping you with the flooring may have been doing sinks yesterday and could be stocking light bulbs tomorrow. Empire Today lives and breathes flooring, and they will be with you every step of the way. Their flooring experts bring the showroom right to your home. You pick the right flooring and the right colors for your space so you can see how it looks with your furniture and in your house. You get precise measurements taken and have all of your questions answered so there are no surprises. With Empire Today, you get clear, upfront, and all-inclusive pricing. Plus, you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. Schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. PHLY listeners can receive a $350 discount when using promo code PHLY. You heard that right, a $350 discount with code PHLY. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretay.com/PHLY for full details.
And a big game tonight in the NBA, and one of the main guys, right, for the New York team has a bone contusion in his knee or knee contusion, whatever he has. And I was like, oh, man, I got connections in New York. I can tell him where to go, and that is Rothman Orthopedics. Got to get right to get ready to play in the game number 5. And that's Rothman Orthopedics, man, where they fix everything. They make sure you're right. They make sure you're ready to go, whether it's simply you trying to push through that injury or that nagging pain, but it's just not getting any better. You got to trust your doctors, and Rothman Orthopedics is the one to do that. Whether it's running, golfing, playing professional basketball, whatever it might be, Rothman's experts specialize in treating all types of injuries and issues. Their focus on high quality, compassionate care will have you feeling better and back to doing what you love. So if pain's slowing you down, it's time to take action. Head over to rothmanortho.com/PHLY and schedule your appointment today. Rothman Orthopedics, your mobility is their mission. And if you're looking for a place to go, Rothman proudly serves dozens of communities across Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Florida with 30+ convenient offices, urgent cares, and walk-in centers. So if you see me and you happen to come to our office with one of our events as part of our community, and I'm running through the halls here and running through the office, it's courtesy of Rothman. They put me back together. I'm right. I'm good. And that's because of Rothman Orthopedics. For more information, visit rothmanortho.com/landing/PHLY. Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers podcast here on this Thursday. Kyle, you wanted to talk about Maluach and Flagg and how things kind of played out for Kon Knueppel within that system.
So a natural thing that comes up in this class specifically is always as it relates to Rutgers, right? The Rutgers guys, Harper and Bailey, were not in a good situation, and so their numbers have to be taken into context, their inability to win, blah, blah, blah. And I think that Kon Knueppel is the guy who often gets singled out in the opposite way, right? That people say, well, he played with Cooper Flagg, he played with Maluach. And as Derek rightfully pointed out, I do think that's important context for the defensive stuff.
Yeah, and
right?
that was the only part I was talking about.
When you have an absolute behemoth center on the back end, and you have Cooper Flagg, who's a super unique, ultra productive defensive player that is a turnover creator, block shots as a weak side guy, just always in passing lanes, constant effort type of player. Yes, of course. That allowed Kon to probably post better defensive splits than he would have otherwise. I would not say that the offensive environment was something that was like, oh, he just sat there and took open shots and he put up better numbers or looked better than he would. Because I think Kon Knueppel was an essential part of what they did on offense, in part because Cooper Flagg coming into the year had a lot of questions about his jumper and his individual shot creation, right? Like you felt pretty confident you're going to be able to play through him in the mid post, use him as a cutter, like he was going to get his points one way or another. Mm-hmm. But as a give him the ball, let him run pick and rolls and, have him attack teams when they drop under screens, a lot less proven on that front. And what Kon Knueppel's presence did throughout that season was it really didn't matter what they were running, what kind of mood that Flagg was in, like if he was more in deferral mode, if you wanted to play him on ball, if you wanted to play him off ball. Kon Knueppel, between his shooting touch, his passing ability, and his instincts for like floor spots and where to be on a given possession, that opened up the floor for Flagg and for Maluach and was a huge part of why Duke was so good on that end. And he deserves a lot of credit for the intelligence and the instinct it takes to say, I see this guy cooking on my team.
Yep.
I'm sliding into this spot and I'm going to set this extra screen. I'm going to make this extra pass. And then when the time came, right, when Cooper Flagg hits the bench, it was a lot of Kon Knueppel, Maluach. We're going to feature the two of you. You're going to run those pick and rolls. You're going to use ball screens to get Maluach rolling downhill and throw the lob from Knueppel to Maluach, where I've said it on the show several times. He's not even having to move his hands, really. He's jumping, and the pass is exactly where it needs to be. So a lot of really precise offense from Knueppel as both a shooter, passer, and ball handler. And I think that's why I remain super high on him, right? I get all the defensive concerns, but he's somebody that helps you facilitate good offense, whether he's on ball, whether he's off ball, whether he's the main guy in a possession or an afterthought that when plays break down and you're late in the shot clock and you need somebody to flash into the right space at the perfect time, that's the type of player that he is. And that's why I have a high degree of confidence that he'll be a productive offensive player.
I agree. There was, I think it was Aaron earlier in the chat asked like whether or not Kon was one of the most likely to be in Europe in 3 years. I disagree completely.
No.
I think he is a very safe prospect because that floor spacing, when you mix it with movement shooting and also good decision making, fits on every team and is almost guaranteed to translate. Like there have been some people bring up like, oh, you don't draft Kyle Korver in the top 10. Now look, they're obviously not a direct comparison. I think skin tone is playing a part in that as well, as is shooting. But if you go back to Kyle...
First name starts with a K, too.
If you go back to Kyle Korver's draft, which was a historic draft, right? LeBron, Carmelo, Wade. Kyle Korver had the 6th highest value over replacement in that entire draft. Now, again, that's not me making a case for Kon at 3, because I wouldn't take Kon at 3.
I don't think any of us would.
But I do think this archetype is a type that gets undervalued before the draft because it's real easy to see the limitations. But I think they end up having a real solid career because it's also real easy for them to provide plus value on a lot of different contexts.
Well, all right. So we'll name some of the other players in that draft, right? So LeBron 1, Melo 3, Bosh 4, Wade 5, right? All-time top 5.
Skip number 2.
Darko went number 2. Chris Kaman went 6. Had a good career, but
maybe one all-star team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kirk Heinrich 7.
Like
TJ Ford 8.
Good
Mike
career.
Sweetney 9. Jarvis Hayes 10.
Washington.
Petrus 11. He had a decent
career.
Yeah. Nick Collison 12. Okay,
Also a good
career.
career.
Like good role player, but
OKC legend.
Marcus Banks 13. Luke Ridnour
Austin.
14. Reese Gaines 15. So you just you keep going down the list. Now there's David West at 18. He was a very good player. Boris Diaw at 21. Very good player. Kendrick Perkins, whatever you think of his commentary career, all the way down to 27.
Nice
but Korver
He
goes
was MVP of those. I can't even say.
Oh God. The point being though, yes, of course, if you could, with hindsight, when you can just say, oh, if you would have just drafted this guy before Korver, yeah, of course. But if you would have taken Korver over Darko at 2, that's a better outcome, right? So we are more in the business of, I tend to think, and I think most people in the chat tend to think, you got to at least try to find some star upside with this pick, right? This is such a rare opportunity to pick top 3 when you already have established stars. You've been a 50-plus win team quite often over the last 5 to 8 years or so. That doesn't mean you just completely ignore the downside case, right? And that's a lot of what we've been talking about with someone like Ace, someone like Derek Queen. Frankly, someone like Maluach, I think because he's just so big, people are like, he's going to have a certain level of floor, but also didn't rebound all that well in college, basically played 20 minutes a game. So he's going to have to really scale up his conditioning and his ability to play a full game. There are lots of downside cases for these guys. But as I say all the time, when people lock into a certain prospect, it's just Nope, none of that stuff matters. It's just all the good stuff for my guy and all the bad stuff for yours.
Hey, we're getting some good ones, man, in the chat of who Kon Knueppel's comp is. Some really good ones. But I wanted to bring up one, Derek, because as we look at, like Kyle said, they all have issues outside of the first two that we look at. But when you look at him, the issue that is the positive side, it's not even an issue, it's the positive. It's the things that he can do really well that will help this basketball team. And like we keep saying with many of these prospects, this is a unique situation because the Sixers weren't supposed to be picking in the lottery at all this season. So with their expectations for next season and with his skill set, specifically the shooting, how would it look for the Sixers with the two smaller guards? Yes, but offensively where he really thrives, how would that look?
No, I think it would look fantastic because he really has, outside of the pull-up mid-range jumper, which is an issue when you're really trying to project like star potential, but I don't really think would be too much of an issue for him in his role. Like if you just talk about catch and shoot, he's got it. He can come off of a screen. He can shoot in transition. He can relocate. He really has just about every perimeter shot you would want in his arsenal. Like I said, the pull-up off the dribble, that's the one thing he's got to work on. That's the one thing he acknowledged, I think it was Kevin O'Connor, a couple of days or weeks ago. It is the one hole in his shooting game, but is also, for his archetype and the way he's going to play, I think probably the one that I care about the least. Like I said, I think that's a great indicator of star potential and untapped potential, but it's not like when you've got Maxey and even McCain and obviously Embiid when he's available and playing in the post, I want someone who's going to be able to move off the ball, relocate, and get his feet set and make a shot quickly. And he does that. And the quickly is a really important part too. A lot of gravity doesn't just come down to how frequently you make the shot, but also how little space you need to get the shot off. And he's got a good high release point. He's got a quick release. I think teams are going to have to defend him out there a lot. And I think that helps everybody on the floor.
And so one of those stat comparers that I was talking about earlier that has come up recently is how do guys react to pressure, right? Mm-hmm. And Kon, one of the things that you would say, all right, if I'm discounting him a little bit because of the Flagg factor and just the Duke environment, you'd say, well, he's not going to face as much pressure at Duke as, these guys at other schools that are number one options, right? Like Trey is getting aggressively doubled, Ace Bailey getting aggressively doubled and trapped more often. But Kon got pressured roughly like 20% of the time when he was leading possessions and almost never turned it over. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, and this is the more important thing because we talk about it on the show a lot, low turnovers is not always a good thing in isolation. Low turnovers when you can make high value passes, that is the holy grail, right? That you're looking for stuff over the top, you're creating potential assists and like finding open shooters, finding rolling big men. And that's where Kon falls into the sweet spot. He's in similar territory as Dylan Harper as guys who faced pressure, took care of the ball, but then created open looks for his teammates. And so while he's not going to be the dribble drive threat, right? He's not the drive and kick guy that Dylan Harper is. This is not comparing them in that respect at all. But if you're talking about someone that, hey, zone collapses on him or teams play aggressively, they're just playing aggressive trapping for whatever reason, or they're stunning in from the side, you can feel confident on most plays he's going to make the right decision and he's going to make a pass that will unlock the defense. It might not be the immediate assist, but it'll be to the most open guy who then can either take that shot or make another extra pass and find the best shot for the offense. Like he makes a ton of those plays, and that shows up the more you watch Duke last year, just unlocking stuff for so many guys on that team.
But he's also one of those players where we talk about it a lot, players going in certain situations and overvaluing who they are, understanding their role. He knows exactly who he is. While he'll try to improve and work on his game. That's what the team asks of him. That's also something I'm sure he wants to improve on, but he knows exactly who he is. And he's what he would come in here right away is again, what you guys both said. Get out there behind that three-point line and knock down those shots. Mm-hmm. Then the other stuff will open up, especially when you see that you can do those other things against these pros, that it's not just college. And folks, he shot 40% at Duke, and he shot them, every time you look at his shot, it's the same shot every time. when he's getting ready to fire
Perfect
up.
balance, shoulder square,
Everything.
great release point.
Even when Derek's talking about the relocation and all that, and the pull-up jumper and all with him, even that's become a big part, Kyle, of the sidestep. Catch it, guy flies by, boom, one bounce to the left or one bounce to the right to get to my spot, and it's still the same shot every time. And in this particular offense with Joel Embiid hopefully playing 40-plus games for the season, Paul George playing close to 50, 60 for whatever he's doing, and obviously Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, and if they keep Quentin Grimes in the mix as well, that's a lot of guys who can create their own shot. And for him, you knock down shots. And when we look at the postseason, Kyle, these guys are knocking down shots. And there are a lot of players knocking down shots. And it's their specialty. And you need those. You may not draft them at number 3, but you need those types of players. Those are players that are who they are in their roles.
Well, how many times have we, just like the quick decision-making, how many times throughout Tobias Harris's tenure in Philadelphia were we like, it's not missing shots. It's not taking them quickly enough. It's not making the pass. It's that moment of hesitation kills you in playoff games, kills you in high leverage moments, right? Because especially like you look at some of these teams now that are in the conference finals, right? Like you play in OKC, their recovery speed and their activity is already just so high. If you give them any room to recover, it's like the possession's dead. You have to totally start the play over. So those margins, those slim margins where you have to make a quick decision, those, one dribble sidestep, one dribble, two dribble step in, pull up jumper, quick swing pass, whatever it is. Those are the difference making plays at the end of the day. Yes, you need the star talent, right? Like you need the guys who are going to pull you up and say, everybody else is having a tough night. I got this. And I don't think Kon is that guy. That's why I wouldn't take him at 3.
Yeah.
But I do think as we talk about trade down scenarios and where the Sixers' head might be at as an organization, if you're looking to move back, if you say we just don't love Ace, we don't love VJ, we don't love anybody at this spot, then you are looking at more of a let's get somebody who I feel super confident is coming in here and is going to play a productive role right away. I'm not saying that's how I would do it. I'm just saying that's if you're trying to get into the headspace to take Kon or to trade back and take him, that's where you have to be.
Yep. All right. Talk a little bit more about Kon Knueppel and what you might have to maybe move back in and try to locate a spot for him and what else might need to be in that deal for you to move back to get Kon Knueppel, even if you guys would be interested in that. We'll talk about the conference finals and a couple of news and notes, draft related, a little bit later right here on this Thursday, the PHLY Sixers podcast.
Gang, the low prices are blooming. So spring into savings with our friends at ALLCITY. Save up to 50% off of living rooms, bedrooms, and dining room furniture. Have it all delivered for free. Get long-term, no-interest financing. You can also save on top brand mattresses. Get free delivery, setup, and removal. Got a new mattress, bed frame not that long ago. And let me tell you, that free delivery, setup, and removal is absolutely priceless because you don't want to be dragging big pieces of furniture up narrow stairways and then putting it all together with whether it's your wife, your husband, your partner, your friend, whoever it is. Let somebody else do that and let it be ALLCITY. But don't wait. Spring into savings now at ALLCITY, South Jersey, and Philadelphia. Financing comes with approved credit. Minimum purchase required. Some exclusions may apply. See store for complete details. Visit ashleyfurniture.com for more information.
Also want to tell you about Ace Hardware. Ace Hardware Home Services offers a wide range of residential maintenance, installation, and home repair services, including plumbing, heating, cooling, and electrical. They offer free estimates on equipment installation and replacement with trusted advisors and options that are best suited for your home and your budget. At Ace Hardware Home Services, whenever they get ready for the job, they remember what to bring. They bring experienced local plumbers and technicians that handle everything from repairs and seasonal maintenance to installations and upgrades. They bring understanding. They listen to your goals, and the job isn't completed until you're satisfied. And they bring helpful to your home so you can spend more of your time on the projects that really matter. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at www.acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project.
Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers podcast. If you want to talk a little bit more about Kon Knueppel and the other draft prospects, you know when you can do that? not just on the show. How about Saturday, June 14th at our second annual PHLY Liberty Open? Why? Because Rich Hoffman will be the only one golfing of us five, because Bree's going to be with us while we're hanging out. And then you can talk about
That's
Ace.
a key distinction, though, because we will be there.
We'll
just
be there.
recognize that I have no ability to play golf.
But we can talk basketball at the golf tournament, the Liberty Open, 2 p.m. shotgun start. The event goes from 2 to 7. It will be at Valley Brook Country Club, and it's presented by Xfinity. Here's what you get. You get to join the PHLY crew for the Diehard Community Golf Tournament. Again, you can sign up for a single, a foursome, or sponsor a hole out there on the course or overall if you're not necessarily deciding to play. And if you want to play with some of the talent here, Rich Hoffman will be one that is part of a foursome. He's part of our show. He's part of course, his great newsletter daily. And you can sign up to become to team up with Rich and 2 others for foursome on Saturday, June 14th.
What do you
once
think?
again,
If
at
you
Valley
spend
Brook
the
Country Club.
next 12 months, do you think you're in a spot where like we could have a legitimate foursome on the court or on the
If
links?
we all did this,
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, I think
I have to get past my frustration first of not
I can't.
mastering
It
the
drives me
game. Not
insane.
necessarily mastering, but just being able to play it. Yeah. So
I might need more than 12 months.
more
but
than 12?
We'll
I
see.
can do
We'll
that.
see how-
I can do that. So make sure you come on out, sign up. Once again, you must be a diehard member to be a part of this event. Here's also what you get. You get 18 holes of golf with a cart. You get limited edition PHLY golf tournament gifts and tee prizes, taste of Philly dinner, and also post-round ceremony at the pavilion. Unlimited draft beer for 2 hours after the round, and contests on the course, and a post-round raffle with Philly memorabilia. So we hope that everybody can sign up. We are inching up, getting closer to that event. That's in a few more weeks. Take advantage of this. Sign up. Come hang out with us. It's our second annual Liberty Open once again. So we can talk some basketball there too. How about you don't like Kon Knueppel, all that cool stuff? You can do that. And I got to tell you one more time about signing up. You got 8 hours, 17 minutes to sign up to take advantage of our summer intro offer of $36. That will get you to become a diehard member to join us at the Liberty Open, and also to read the stories that are available from all the beats here at allphly.com. Derek's latest 4 options for the Sixers with the 35th pick in the draft. I'm not telling you who they are because I want you to sign up.
I mean, I did tweet out the names of them earlier.
Well, you
today,
shouldn't have done that as far as my promotion goes here. But you can go check out Derek's tweet and you get the interest.
Drake Powell,
and you go read.
Stand up, baby.
Absolutely. All right, Derek, what would it take to go? And we'll get to Brian Pumper's super chats here shortly. What would it take?
We have a segment of our show, the Brian Pumper super chats.
Yeah. Just so quickly before we get to those, what would it take to maybe move back if you had interest in Kon Knueppel? What would be that range for you, and maybe a trade partner somewhere in that lottery where you want to stay, of course, to be able to get him, and maybe you pick up another. Like in the past, we've talked about the New Orleans Pelicans, Herb Jones
at 7 for 3.
Yeah, is there somewhere?
I mean, really anywhere in that 6 through 10 range. Like Washington, they have 2 picks, right? I'm pretty sure they have 2
they have
first-round
18,
picks.
19.
Washington, New Orleans at 6, 7. Brooklyn at 8. Brooklyn has 4 first-round picks this year.
Now Brooklyn's at least one of those are pretty late, right?
Yeah, it's like,
and
I think
those
2
picks
of
have
them. I
been
think it's like
devalued.
27, 28.
20, yeah.
Right. And so I think some of those picks have been devalued by all the guys going back to school.
I'm more saying I just don't think they want to roster 4 rookies. So they're probably looking to aggregate some picks. But yeah, somewhere in that 6 through 8, 6 through 9 range is probably where Kon will go, and I think where you would give him serious consideration.
Yeah, so let's say the Washington one's a good example. Where is Washington picking? They're at 6.
Yep.
And
18. Yep.
18.
Memphis original pick.
Okay.
So if you got 6 and took Knueppel at 18, you're potentially in the mix for
Cedric Coward, baby.
I think he's going to go higher, but so let's
He's
just throw
all
him in
over
there.
the place.
Yeah.
I've seen him like late
So let's
first
say
round. some places.
Coward, Fleming, Neek Clifford,
Igor, maybe.
I'm not drafting him.
I will say, I think he's got one of the draft's elite skills.
Yeah, I just have
a lot of concerns over.
I don't think he can
But the Fleming,
beat guys off the dribble.
Yeah,
But
Fleming,
so like
Will
if you
Riley.
take a Knueppel who's in more of we're getting an offensive skill guy and then you add some form of a two-way guy. So Fleming is a front court prospect. Clifford is more of a probably like 2-3 hybrid who's going to play both ends of the floor. Coward, I think, is the prototypical 3-and-D size type guy. But I think when it's all said and done, Coward is probably going to go lottery and higher than 18.
He's really all over the place.
Yeah.
All over the place.
Look,
and which is tough because he played like 2 years at a D3 school, transferred and played 6 games before getting injured. So he's all over the place.
And
Carter
speaking
Bryant,
of all over the place,
maybe if he doesn't.
yeah,
we think he's higher, but if he's somewhere in that
someone
range,
who Derek loves, who Devon and I have not watched much of, who I know several members of the chat, Essengay, I think, has a real wide range, right? So if you get 6 and 18 and you draft Kon, you can do both sides of it, right? You get the more sure thing offensive guy, and then you just get the
Super
giant
toolsy.
athlete, toolsy potential guy in Essengay at 18. Like, there's some appeal in that to me. But I do think if we circle back to just being at 3, every time we bring up these trade down scenarios, they almost require, in my mind, taking Ace initially, right? Like, you're going to be on the clock and take him, and then
You mean if you
just
don't
sit
have
and
a
wait.
deal worked out ahead of time?
Ideally, you would.
Right.
But if you're trying to leave those possibilities open, I think that's when, if you see Ace at 3, it could just be that they view him as the best prospect. Wouldn't be a huge shocker, although I think it's a little against what I think is their type of guy. But I think if you see Ace at 3, I'm still thinking long and hard about, I wonder if that is going to last long, or if we're going to spend 10 minutes doing the upside case on Ace, and then all of a sudden we get the Shams notification that the pick has been traded to somebody else.
That is real tough to do, though. Like, if you draft somebody and you don't have a trade worked out, you better really like that prospect.
I
remember Hinkie doing it, but that's
I remember.
because he knew
I
he
was
could.
going to say and it was at pick number 3 with Jahlil Okafor. Admittedly,
Oh, well, no, I was thinking of the, oh my God, point guard alongside MCW. Alfred Payton.
yeah.
at 10.
But he knew he
11,
could basically
10.
extort Orlando for that.
Yeah. Tough night for MCW.
Yeah.
At
He was at the draft,
That's what
yeah.
I'm saying. It was tough. He was sweating a little bit
Oh,
there.
I thought I missed the boxing fight or MMA fight he's supposed to be.
I don't
in.
even know.
You said
I
tough
forgot
night.
when that one is.
I don't know
It might
when
be
that
this
is.
coming weekend. I don't know. It might be this
I
weekend.
thought you were more plugged in than me on that one for a second.
Yeah. So, yeah. But no, man, I mean, look, one good thing, the draft is on the 25th, the first round, that Wednesday. We will know early. We will know very early what's going on with the 76ers because they have that 3rd overall pick. So we'll know that. Don't forget, it's a 2-night draft, Wednesday and Thursday. Thursday is the 2nd round, and the Sixers have the 35th pick unless they trade into the back end of the first round, which would happen at the end of the night on that Wednesday. So make sure you stay with us for that regardless. All right, let's get to the Brian Pumper segment of the night, of the day, the 2 super chats that he has. Oh, man, look at that. 2 $5 super chats. He hit the over. All right, let's get to it. We can't fault Ace Bailey for having a bad record at Rutgers. He was playing with plumbers and accountants. Can't cook Ace if we don't cook Dylan.
I can cook him for playing like a bozo and Dylan Harper not playing like a bozo.
Yeah, I don't think this panel here and me specifically, I have not focused on their
No.
record at all.
No.
You're fighting a straw man there a little bit.
I don't think any of us have been like, oh, you can't draft Ace because the record was whatever. Like, it's something to keep in mind. It's something to take note of. And as we look forward, like,
And there's a recent history of players that
but
didn't work out because of that.
The cases we've made against Ace have been, and for Harper, have been based on skill set, league fit, league environment, how a guy's going to be coachable or not coachable. That I don't really care about especially in the one and done era, right? Like, I just think it's so much harder now to say,
well, and
guys
especially
should
now
come
in
in
the
and just win
NIL
right
one
away.
and done era.
The one and done in NIL. So it's,
I
the
don't
Rutgers
care about
roster was, all I have said is that nobody's given the same benefit of the doubt to other guys in the Ace camp, right? Like, there are VJ Edgecombe did not play in the ideal environment for him, right?
No,
He's playing with a
absolutely.
bunch of guards who couldn't shoot and, dominated too much time of possession. That's not the perfect place for him, and that should be considered, and it is considered. Didn't win as many games as they should have. Trey is in another bad environment, right? Like, Trey, some of his offensive issues, we would say, bad coaching, bad teammates, bad scheme. It impacts all of them. That's the only point we've ever made, is that Ace is not the only player in college basketball or in this lottery who had to deal with suboptimal circumstances.
Brian Pumper with another. Let's be real. Who would you draft? A guy named Valdez or a guy named Arias? I choose the latter. Michael Jeffrey Jordan will approve, sir. 100.
I'm not sure why someone named Michael is making your point there. That's one of the most generic names that you could possibly.
He doesn't even go by Arias. He goes by Ace in this one.
Here, I'll bring another category into. Do we think that, would you take ASAP Rocky in a rapper draft because he's named after Rakim?
No, I'm not.
Absolutely not.
No.
Maybe you take him in like the 6th round,
right?
But you're not taking him top 5 on his name, buddy.
Yeah. Thanks, Pump. We appreciate the super chats as always. Last night, Derek, the Western Conference Finals came to an end.
That's a true fact, by the way. ASAP Rocky's named after Rakim.
I didn't even know that.
He's talked about it in interviews.
Yeah. Western Conference Final comes to an end. Wasn't even close.
Wasn't even close. That was a nice one because, like, first quarter, you're like, oh, I can turn this one.
I checked out of that.
Don't got to pay attention to this one.
They're down 30. It's 1, 2, 3 Cancun, baby.
We were talking about it. We all started
9-point first quarter, man.
That was bad, man. That was really bad.
And look, they're a great defensive team. They couldn't do. Minnesota couldn't do anything.
They kept turning it up and turning it up and turning it up. So they move on to the NBA Finals and represent the West.
Yeah,
as expected.
Look, it's a shame, right? Because, apologies, but like if Indy does advance, like they're the story. Like OKC is, you expected them to be here. We all picked them, and Lord knows we didn't get any of our predictions right. So even if we could get that prediction right, they were expected to make this jump. I'd love to.
Wait, who was the one who took the Celtics to win the title this year? Was that you or Devon?
I didn't.
I think I did.
Okay,
I could never.
Derek and I's prediction.
I specifically said I could never pick the Celtics to win back to back. That was not going to happen.
Yeah.
But I want to sit here and talk about Indy and how great of a season they are and what a story it is. No, it's going to be a great chance. OKC is a juggernaut right now. I'm not picking against them.
It is a shame for Minnesota in this case, right? Who they make this pretty controversial trade of Cat, and for a while they're treading water. They're around 500, and this ends up being a really successful season, especially for that franchise, dude. Like, Anthony Edwards is setting playoff records for the Timberwolves in like 2 years, right? That's how great of a run he's been on relative to the standard of that franchise. And it's still like, well, they got their heads kicked in by the Thunder, and now it turns less into, oh, this is a good story and a good season, and you're just nowhere close. And why can't Ant beat any of his same age peers? He's beating up on senior citizens in the 1st and 2nd rounds. And it's like, all right, man, there is a middle ground, right? We can say Anthony Edwards probably needs to play better against the Shays, the Lucas, like those guys.
But if you give
take all credit away.
Like 10 deep roster, he's probably playing pretty well too.
We got to take back our apology forms for Julius.
No,
Randle.
you know what? Oh, you missed
credit.
it in the Discord last night,
okay.
Devon. I posted a thing.
You don't know that. He could have been watching.
Devon and I, no, I know he's not. Devon and I circling back on our Julius Randle hater tour. We weren't wrong. We were just early.
We were. Man.
That's all it took.
Man, I don't know what happened there because the coach Finch is benching him and he's upset. And then they try to feature him early and he's not scoring because of how fast that defense looked and how great Chet Holmgren looked defensively and slowing them down. And then it was just bad. And even our guy, Ant Edwards didn't go out looking great. As much as he has to improve and he's still young, this is his 2nd time there, and he didn't look good at all in that environment. I don't think he quit like some people were saying. You saw that around there. I don't think he quit. Just couldn't figure it out. And the other team was just that much better.
And I found the video last night of, remember when the Suns got unceremoniously bounced by Dallas?
Yes.
Anthony Edwards posted an Instagram story where it's like, man, y'all were talking all this trash saying we're not going to make the playoffs. You got 36 points in the second half. Last night, his team had 32 points at halftime of a playoff game against Oklahoma City. So it was just a real, everybody who watches this show regularly knows I love Ant-Man. He's super entertaining, really bright future ahead. But one of those things that when you talk trash every once in a while, it comes back on you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, there's a tweet for everything, right? So there's that. All right, so OKC is awaiting now, Kyle, the winner of the Eastern Conference. Game 5 tonight, Indiana in New York, trying to close it out. How you feeling about this one tonight? Cat dealing with the knee
I think
contusion.
the Pacers close it out. If the Knicks were healthy, I'd probably lean a little into they'll get one on their home floor, like backs against the wall. I don't think they're a team that's like going to completely pack it in. But with Cat not being right, the Pacers just frankly are playing better than them right now. And I think most importantly, that's a big part of that is Tibbs is just throwing stuff at the wall, right? Like this is not I made an adjustment and I mess with the lineups. There doesn't seem to be rhyme or reason to what he's doing, right? Like playing Shamet in spots that I think Deuce McBride should be playing. Like if you just watch how they've played with McBride on the floor and then you look at the stats, it's like he's been a major positive. Like he's been a part of all these successful runs and lineups that they've had in the playoffs. And instead of saying give him more minutes, Tibbs has been a little timid about even using him. And he's like, well, put Landry Shamet in there or play the double big lineup with Mitchell Robinson. So I don't think they really have a plan to get out of this. And that's Tibbs, right? You either win with your best 5 or your guys who you've identified as the best 5, or he doesn't really have a backup.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, in my heart, I was debating this earlier today, which would be easier on Devon, just going out and getting it over with, or dragging it on for another 2 days. I'm trying to, because I love you. I want what's best for you. I don't see 3 wins in a row. Not with the Knicks this broke, beaten up, not with the depth issues. So I'm trying to figure out which is the easiest way to let Devon down. I think it might just be ending in 5. It would suck for New York fans, which also might be why I'm rooting for it, because losing in MSG would be, I've got 2 competing, angels on my shoulders. There's I really want what's good for Devon, but also like, fuck, we're not in overtime yet. Screw New York fans. I like seeing them. I like seeing them suffer a little bit, and losing at MSG would be great. I don't know, man. The combination of Cat not being 100, the depth issues, I do think they seem a little desperate in their scheme, and the vibes just feel off with them right now. And I'm not a vibes guy at all. The Cat
Brunson stuff is
the vibes don't feel great. I think they probably do close it out in 5.
Game 1 screwed us. We had to close that game out.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you just had to.
You got to get McHale on relationship mending duty between Cat and Brunson, because what the hell's going on with the 2 of them? It just seems a little.
It really is just a tough. They are a tough team to be shorthanded against. The Pacers are, because they just when they can or when they need to, they can just push that pace so fast. And I think they've looked tired in a lot of these games at late.
I agree. I agree that there have been times where they look fatigued. Certainly, again, we just had to take game 1.
Yeah.
We just had to. Even if you win by 1, being up as much as you were, just win the game and fix the problems on the next day off and go over the film and discuss it all. We had to take game 1 and did not. I hope we win tonight and extend it. I don't want to just put myself out of this misery here and all of that.
You've got to keep hope alive.
I do. Yeah, I have no choice.
I don't. So I'm worried for my teammate. I'm worried for your mental health. So I'm just wondering which would be easier.
Extend it.
Yeah.
Extend it.
Okay.
Because
then I'm rooting for New York tonight.
It gives him another opportunity to still, be able to play and all of that. So the last
I'd offer you some advice, but I don't know what the conference finals feel like.
It's pretty fun. The finals is fun too. But they got to win this one. To get there. So we'll see, man. We'll see.
We have somebody who's confused about you talking about the Knicks.
You can tell him. You can tell him. I don't.
Here's a hint. You can look it up. May have a family member who plays a prominent role for the Knicks.
Yes, that's the only reason.
Do 2 seconds of research instead of coming
Also,
in
his father's been on the show.
We're going to overtime, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
PHLY.com.
And we're going to overtime so I can say, instead of being a fucking jackass in chat and making comments, maybe just do 2 seconds of Googling and figure it out.
I hope you timed that exactly right.
I think he did.
It was after the
I think he did.
after the wipe of the screen, as far as I know.
Yeah,
So,
I'm normally not a we when it comes to New York. The only reason I'm a we is because of one person that plays for the New York Knicks, and that is it. And I'm sure that's the case for every other family member.
Yeah,
that is
when you have a
part
family member playing in the conference finals, you're allowed to say we.
Yes, and before he was there, he was in Brooklyn, he was in Phoenix, he was at
he
Villanova.
was briefly on the Sixers. Maybe consider who could it be? I wonder. I'm put my thinking cap on.
Yes.
Who could it be?
Yes, and if you ask, I don't even know what he was saying, but if you ask why am I doing a Sixers show, well, I've been doing Sixers coverage for 17 years before he was even in the NBA. So there's that. So yeah. So
Anyway,
yeah, that's why. That's why. And everybody else in the chat knows that, and we can all have good fun with that. So let's hope we can extend it, get a game on Saturday, and see where it goes from there. It's been a tough series, man. It's been a tough series to see how it's been going out.
not for me.
It's really
I've been loving
It's
it.
been a tough. You lose game one the way you lose game one.
Yeah.
That just threw everything off, man. Yep. Everything off because they had a chance to
You
win
can recover
every
from
game.
yeah.
They had a chance to win every game.
Well,
so far.
they're going through a similar version of what the Celtics went through in the previous series, right?
Yeah.
Boston probably rightfully felt, we should be up 2-0 to start that series. And to the Knicks' credit, they battle back and they hang around and they have comeback wins in those games. But like it's another thing that like I think some people still will watch Sixers games and it's like, oh, they blew a 12-point lead. Oh my God. And it's like,
It happens
that's
all the time, yeah.
It's 4 possessions. Like these leads go up in smoke quicker than they ever have with the way teams play. Now that doesn't excuse some of that Hawks game 5 is still one of the most despicable performances in the history of Philadelphia basketball.
Brutal.
Philadelphia sports, frankly, honestly.
Yeah, it happens.
That is the single, actually, that's a show topic for another day. Is that the single worst loss of this era?
Game 5.
Single game.
I mean, it's the one that sticks out the most for sure. It's the one that's always going to bother me just because that was such a, like, they're the Atlanta Hawks. Like, I was arguing with somebody.
And it was like old Lou Williams tore you apart.
Yeah.
That wasn't even like a Trey nuclear
Kevin Herter,
game.
like, you're kidding me.
Yeah.
I was arguing with somebody in our Discord, which, by the way, you get to by subscribing at allphly.com, exclusive Discord. But
$36.
He was debating. He's like, oh, well, how come the Sixers never got like the injury luck that some of these teams are getting? I'm like, my guy, they had the Atlanta Hawks. All they had to do to get the conference finals that year was beat Washington and Atlanta. And Atlanta's been what? Like, have they even been a 500 team since then? I don't think so.
They won too soon. They thought they were better than they were.
Trae Young thought the regular season was boring.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
They
that
won
will
too soon.
always bother
It's
me.
either that one or game 6, of course, at home against Boston in 23.
Yeah.
It's
At least that
one
one
of those
was
two.
just like
That was against a great
you
team.
didn't make shots and you
Yeah.
played a good team. Like
Game 7 was inexcusable, but Game
Yeah.
6 you could at least understand. It was just a massive
choking
lost
away
opportunity.
game 5, where the first half you just hit them with 3 consecutive haymakers, and it's like, oh, this game's over.
Yeah.
And then they just got to win 1 and 2. They won game 6 after all that, which to me might have been the most shocking thing in the whole series. 'Cause
Tyrese Maxey game.
I thought after that collapse in game 5, it was like, these guys are going to Atlanta with their tails between their legs and are going to get blown out by like 20 plus. And
Instead, we
Maxey
got to see
came
Game
in
7.
and-
Honestly, it might have been better if they had lost in Game
To your
6.
point of getting this one over with, for us. In
Well, I'm more talking about because of the meltdown and everything that happened in Game 7.
Game 7, yeah. Oh man, good times. We'll get to that one at some
Was it
point
good times though?
here on the show. Let's get to the quick super chats that came in
couple
late.
more.
Pump with more, not passing on a tough shot maker for a guy who just hustles. Going to take more than that to pass on a 6'8" assassin scorer.
the guy
Who's
who
the
just
guy
hustles?
who just hustles?
VJ.
I
I'm
have
certain
to
that's what you're talking
underline, he's not Zaire Smith. They're not the same player. He's not like, just please watch a basketball game
Also,
and not a highlight reel.
the tough shot making isn't the problem with Ace. It's that I don't think he can consistently create easy shots for either himself or for others.
Marcus Blackstock, the pace took the Knicks' legs, and Jalen doesn't force Cat to stay in the paint. I do have issue with Karl Anthony Towns catching the ball 20 feet away from the basket pretty much every time. When he does,
listen, he is bombing on those threes, by the way. He takes deep catch and shoot shots.
He's making up for the last series where he couldn't shoot the threes because they wouldn't let him. And some of them have worked out, some of them have not. But when he's decided to go back to the basket, he's scoring on them. And that's the frustrating part with that one. Hopefully Jalen and those guys settle things down tonight and get the W. So we'll see.
Let's go Pacers. And McHale, but mostly the Pacers.
That's quick news and notes just because it is pertinent to the conversation. The deadline to go back to school or stay in the draft. Names dropping off the list, man. We talked about Yaxel yesterday and Alex Condon, along with Diehard Pettiford, all going back to their respective schools, Michigan, Florida, Auburn. Milos Uzan from Houston going back to school. Boogie Flan going to school in Florida. LeBaron, how do you say his last name? Is it Feline or Feline? All right.
Phylon is how I would say it, but that doesn't mean it's right.
LeBaron's going back to Alabama. He's not in there. He's not staying. And
he was a surprise to me. Now, his range from people I talked to, what you want to talk about all over the place. I saw people who were like, he's like the 45th best player to he's a top 10 talent in this class. So I think with another year to kind of round out his game and figure some things out, he could potentially play himself into some more firm lottery top 20 conversations. But that one was a pretty big shock for me.
Isaiah Evans, he made an early decision, go back to Duke. So he's going back to Duke. De'Arian Williams, NC State. Miles Byrd, San Diego State, back to school.
Just talked about him last week.
Yes, we did. And there are a few others that went back that doesn't necessarily affect the Sixers in that 35th overall pick that we were talking about.
Kalkbrenner, a nation turns its lonely eyes to you at 35 because, boy, the names are drying up.
Well, one that we talked about that we did not bring up yesterday is the question was what big men could still be there. We mentioned Yang and we mentioned Kalkbrenner. We didn't mention, though, Kyle, we talked about him before the show, Yannick Conan and Niederheiser from Penn State. The kid that a lot of people were talking about for what he's done.
A lot of combine buzz.
7 foot, 243. He's got a 7'3" wingspan, Derek, 9'3" standing reach. Looked really good with the combine stuff and even the pre-combine stuff where there were a lot of good buzz there for him. And that's another name that you can probably talk about since he decided to stay in that could potentially be in that range at around that 35.
Yeah. I said to you earlier, Devon, with bigs, I generally am in the tools camp, right? So I don't know that he's a sure bet or anything close to it, but at 35, you say, guy with his size and athleticism, I'm cool with a flyer on that. But I would hope that there's more of a positional fit and upside case guy that ends up there. I'm just worried at this point that, and you guys can read about the pick 35 options that Derek wrote about today at allphly.com. I'm just worried that someone like Powell has gone from 35 to 38 range to maybe like 28 type of range. And maybe he and some other guys are just out of their reach.
Another surprise for me, RJ Luis leaves St. John's. I thought he was going to go to another school.
I think it was Bassini had a funny tweet. He's
Stays in the draft.
He's the first guy that I was like, oh, he's in the draft. Something to that effect. So good for, listen, take your chance. If everybody else is going back to school,
maybe you
get a good workout somewhere, sneak in as a two-way guy, whatever it is.
Yeah.
We shall see.
A little surprising. So that's our news and notes, and we'll see what happens, of course, with the conference finals in the East tonight. Let's get ready to say goodbye to everyone. World famous. It's the roll call.
Yes, sir. And just let me remind everyone, because I dropped a jackass to open overtime tonight. We accept all comers around here, new people, old friends, family, whoever it is. If you're going to join the chat and join the show, we encourage that. Show a little respect to the people who are either in the chat, on the show, part of the community. It's all I ever ask. Don't care what your opinions or your takes are. We all have different schools of thought. Come in here and show people a little respect. That's all that I and we, I think, collectively care
really,
about.
though, if you're going to call any of us a jackass, Kyle and I are fair game. Don't pick on Devon. That's not allowed.
Except for when you do call them jackasses, then I will come after you.
There we go.
For that one. But I do appreciate it because I didn't even see it until you brought it up, and I only saw one, and it was just saying no to New York or something, but you clearly saw something that needed for you to respond.
I didn't like. That's all I'm going to say.
And I appreciate it.
But thank you, everybody who is
you.
in support of our show here and also our wonderful community that includes
Thank you, everybody.
Ace Bailey superfan #1, Brian Pumper, the king of the Ace Bailey super chat segment at the end of our shows. We're going to have to get
Got his Rutgers
official
jersey.
B-Pump super chat sponsor on the show.
He's Ace.
Maybe Ace Hardware.
He's
I don't
Ace.
know.
Yeah, he's Ace.
Hedva, thank you for being here.
What
Money
up,
Mar, Riaz, Provolone John.
Provolone.
Darkness!
Turn the lights down for the Minnesota Timberwolves.
INS hanging out with us.
Turn the lights out.
Rick Morse. I think I said Provolone John already.
What up, Ricky? Go get him, Rick.
Double count already. Go get him, Rick, indeed. Mom's grandchildren. What up to Mom?
Hey, Mom. I'll call you in a bit.
Duck Holiday. Sean Ford. Randy Rubart.
What up, Randy?
Mellow 3 Point.
Hello, my man.
My girl Winona, as always. Jerry Sinclair. What's up,
Jerry?
Jerry?
Been a while, Jerry.
Frank C. I know I saw Malk was in here earlier.
What up, Malk?
Said it had been a while, so good to see you, Malk. Marcus Blackstock, I believe, also had a super chat in here today.
He did. What up, Mark?
I don't know what this new feature is, by the way. All these like
what is that,
top
Bree?
chat.
Congratulations to Igavini for winning.
It's like a ranking of chatters.
I don't know what you won, but you won.
You're all listen
during the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what number you are in the program, but you're all #1 in my heart, as they say, right?
Yes.
So thank you, all of you. Brian Knight, thank you for coming
Knight.
through. I think Brian Knight's one of the Ace Hardware heads. Fidel Castro of the Strip Club in the building, as always. Maybe not as always, but as often. Aaron, we know, is
what up, Aaron?
with us. PSU Iverson, who
he
made
active.
a lot of slanderous comparisons today, but good to see you here. Thanks for being here today, hanging out with the crew. Thank you to everybody for being here. Did I miss any super chatters, Bree? Sorry. Jess, obviously, I think
She's got the Purple Heart.
Jay the Jungle, I don't know if he was here, but buddy, you're out there somewhere.
What up, Jay? What up, Al?
As are many of you. Our guy Al, the 2-minute warning, out there somewhere.
Al hasn't been here in a while.
Not much of a draft guy, I guess. Who knows? Well, when they make a pick, we'll see.
Get out.
We shall see. Phil W, Kelly Oubre,
Philly
super
Phil.
fan, somewhere out there lurking. Jesse Bond. Thank you, everybody who was here today. On the way out, please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get notifications each and every time we go live. And hit that thumbs up button to say thank you, super producer Bree, making it all happen with the graphics and the sound and everything else. Oh, and I see Frank C. in the chat.
What up, Frankie?
Who said, congrats on the Prem. That's right. My wonderful boys at Liverpool not only won the English Premier League title, they're loading up with reinforcements, and they're coming back for another one next year.
I'm so excited for you, Kyle. So excited.
Well, just as excited as I am for your drones, Derek. Anyway, we'll see you tomorrow
Bring them up on the
at
show.
3 p.m. Somebody brought it up in the chat. 3 p.m. tomorrow, as we are Monday through Friday. We shall see you then. Until then, take care.
See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.